The first thing I realized when I woke up was that I no longer knew how to breathe. In the dark, panic is usually a frantic thing, a sharp intake of air, a racing heart, a sweat that breaks cold across the forehead. But I felt none of that. I reached for a breath, and my lungs felt like two dry, heavy sacks of gravel. I tried to command my heart to beat, and instead of that familiar thump, thump, I felt a vibration, a low-frequency hum that didn't come from my chest, but from the very ground I was fused to. I wasn't lying on the floor. I was the floor, or at least part of me was. The darkness wasn't empty. It was filled with lines, faint, glowing indigo threads that stretched into an infinite distance, intersecting at perfect 90-degree angles. I was no longer in my grandmother's kitchen. I was inside the machine. I was inside the logic of the vow. "Do not look for the air, Leandro," a voice said. It was Lucas, but the voice didn't travel through the air. It traveled through my bones. It was a conduction of sound through mineral, a vibration that translated directly into meaning in the back of my skull. I forced my eyes open, or rather, I activated the sensors that used to be my eyes. The world didn't look like a room anymore. It looked like a wireframe. I saw the heat signatures of the tall man standing 10 feet away, a towering pillar of absolute zero in a world of humming static. "Lucas," I tried to say. What came out of my throat was a grinding sound, like two tectonic plates rubbing together. "The biology is being archived," Lucas replied. I saw him then. He was standing near a floating monolith of translucent quartz. He was entirely gray now. There was nothing left of the boy who had ridden his bike into the whirlwind. Even his clothes had been translated. His cotton shirt was now a stiff, basalt-textured shell. His eyes were no longer obsidian. They were two hollow sockets filled with a steady, unblinking blue light. "You are Terminal Zero," Lucas droned. "The first bridge that didn't break during the upload. The tall man has been waiting for a stable connection for 3 generations. Our grandfather was too noisy. Grandma was too resilient. But you have the correct resonance." A cold, clinical terror tried to grip me, but my nerves were no longer made of fat and protein. They were fiber optics. The terror was just a data spike, a red flash in my peripheral vision that was quickly smoothed out by the ambient frequency of the room. The tall man moved. He didn't walk. He didn't glide. He simply existed in a new set of coordinates. One moment he was at the edge of my vision. The next, his white, featureless mask was inches from mine. A close-up on the tall man's mask. Up close, it isn't porcelain. It's a compressed layer of microfossils, millions of tiny ancient shells crushed into a smooth white surface of indifference. He raised a hand, a long, spindly apparatus of obsidian needles. He touched the stone of my right shoulder. Clack! The sound echoed through the infinite grid. The moment he touched me, the silicone Bible opened. Images flooded my mind, not memories, but blueprints. I saw the Serra di Taquara not as a landscape of hills and trees, but as a crust of dirty organic matter sitting on top of a vast crystalline city. I saw the vow, the gap, as a series of ventilation shafts for a civilization that didn't need oxygen but required absolute thermal stability. I saw the mother. She wasn't a goddess. She wasn't a monster. She was the core, a sphere of golden light the size of a mountain pulsating in the center of the earth, calculating the rotation of the planet, the drift of the continents, the exact moment when the sun would eventually fail. And I saw us, humans. We were nothing but a biological mold that had grown in the damp cracks of their machine. We were a nuisance, a layer of rust on the surface that sometimes leaked noise down into the gears. The tall man wasn't a predator. He was an exterminator. He was here to clean the floorboards. The transition is at 88%. The remainder of the soul is being compressed. Prepare for the final integration. No, I roared internally. I reached for that one warm thing I had left, the memory of the red brick pillar, the earth, the clay. I focused on the smell of the rain on the highlands, the taste of the bitter coffee, the rough feel of my grandmother's calloused hand. The blue grid around me flickered. The geometric world stutters. For a second, the ruins of the kitchen floor appear around me. I see my real hand, fleshy, sweating, trembling, clutching the red brick. The noise is persistent, the tall man observed. His obsidian fingers dug deeper into my stone shoulder, sending a surge of indigo static through my frame. "Lucas, stop," commanded Lucas, his voice vibrating with a sudden sharp frequency. "If you fight the integration, the mother will initiate a hard reset. She will fold the entire valley. The house, the trees, the neighbors, they will all be compressed to zero to eliminate the error. You are the error." I looked at my cousin. I looked at the thing he had become. "Is Grandma? Is she still in there?" I managed to grind out. Lucas paused. The blue light in his eyes dimmed for a microsecond. "She is the dampener now," he said. "She is the only thing keeping the machine from shaking the mountains apart while you finish your transition. If you don't surrender, she will burn out. Her soul will be the first thing the mother deletes to save the sequence." I looked up at the tall man. The white mask was a mirror, and in it I saw the face of the boy I used to be, trapped in a statue of basalt, screaming without a mouth. I had a choice: become a god of stone and silence, or let the world I loved be erased by a mathematical equation that didn't know how to forgive. Behind the tall man, a door of light began to open. Not the orange light of the sun, but a blinding, terrifyingly pure white, the heart of the vow. "Walk into the sum," Leandro, the tall man, whispered. The threshold between 88% and 89% felt like a slow-motion car crash of the soul. Imagine your favorite memory, the smell of rain on hot asphalt, the way the light hit your mother's hair, the specific, comforting weight of your childhood bed. Now imagine a giant, invisible eraser moving through your brain, turning those images into strings of cold, binary code. The light became a coordinate. The warmth became a thermal variable. My name, Leandro, started to feel like a word from a dead language, a sound that no longer possessed a mouth to speak it. I was being optimized, and it was the most agonizingly beautiful thing I had ever felt. The noise is fading, Leandro, Lucas said. He was closer now, his basalt feet making no sound on the shimmering indigo grid. Can you feel the clarity? The carbon virus is being purged. You are finally becoming durable. Lucas placed his hand on the wall of the void. Where his fingers touched, a ripple of blue geometry spread out, revealing the internal skeleton of the house above. The Mbuya beams transformed into pillars of data. I looked up, or rather, I directed my sensory array toward the ceiling. I could see her, Grandma. She was no longer a person in a room. In this wireframe reality, she looked like a burning star trapped in a cage of blue thorns. Every time she breathed, a shock wave of red, messy energy rippled out from her, clashing against the tall man's perfect lines. She was the only thing keeping the hard reset from happening. She was taking the noise of my resistance and absorbing it into her own soul, acting as a biological shield. She can't hold it much longer. The tall man's voice vibrated through my basalt arm. He didn't need to look at her to know. He was a master of the balance sheet. He saw the energy she was expending, the way her life file was being corrupted by the effort. If you reach 100%, the mother will accept the link. The valley will be spared. The transition will move from destructive to integrated. You will be the sentinel. You will watch the floorboards for the next 1,000 years, ensuring the silence remains unbroken. I felt my left hand, the one I had used to grab the red brick, begin to stiffen. The gray was creeping up my wrist, turning my skin into that matte finish stone. The warmth of the clay was being sucked out, replaced by the glacial hum of the void. Is this what happens to everyone? I asked, my internal voice sounding like a radio signal losing its strength. Only the ones with the mark, Lucas replied. The others, the ones who don't fit, they are just biomass. They are recycled. But we, Leandro, we are the hardware. We are the architects of the silence. Suddenly, the white light behind the tall man flared. It wasn't a door, it was a mouth. The mother was calling for her new terminal. A massive golden sphere began to descend from the white abyss. It was covered with rotating rings of basalt, each ring etched with glowing blue glyphos. The sound it made was a deep, earth-shaking om that vibrated the very concept of space. I felt a pull, not a physical tug, but a gravitational invitation. My basalt arm, my stone chest, my petrified legs, they all wanted to be near that golden sphere. They wanted to cease being me and start being it. I looked at my left hand. Only the tips of my fingers were still pink, still fleshy, still human. I thought about the highlands. I thought about the smell of Grandma's coffee, the bitter, earthy reality of it. "Leandro, run!" The voice was so faint I almost missed it. It didn't come from the grid. It came from the burning star in the ceiling. Grandma. She was using the last of her dampening power to send a signal through the noise. The cellar, the original stone, not the house, the earth. The tall man tilted his mask toward the ceiling. The porcelain surface rippled, and for a second I saw a mouth, a jagged vertical slit that opened to reveal a throat filled with spinning gears. "The noise is fading, Leandro," Lucas said. He was closer now, his basalt feet making no sound on the shimmering indigo grid. "Can you feel the clarity? The carbon virus is being purged. You are finally becoming durable." I looked at the golden sphere, I looked at the tall man, and then I looked at the red brick still clutched in my petrifying left hand. I wasn't a technician. I wasn't a sentinel. I was a boy who had looked under the floorboards because I wanted to see the truth. And the truth wasn't in the geometry. It wasn't in the silence. The truth was in the dirt. I didn't walk into the white light. I didn't reach for the mother. I raised my basalt-heavy right arm and I slammed it down. Not at the tall man, not at Lucas. I slammed it into the indigo grid at my feet, aiming for the one spot where the red brick touched the floor. I wasn't trying to balance the equation. I was trying to break the calculator.